My parents gave my college fund to my sister's wedding. She needs it more, Mom said. So I quietly canceled the $4,200 monthly business loan I'd been paying for Dad's restaurant. Now they're begging me to be reasonable. So here's the thing about being the responsible kid in a family full of dreamers and princesses. You become the human ATM without even realizing it. One day you're just helping out. Next thing you know, you're basically funding everyone else's life while they treat you like the hired help. I, 28 male, have been playing this game my whole damn life. My sister Chelsea, she's 25 and has never met a problem she couldn't solve with tears and dramatic gestures. My parents, they've been eating out of her hand since day one, convinced she's some kind of fragile flower who needs constant protection from the harsh realities of adult life. Meanwhile, I've been working since I was 14, put myself through community college, and now run my own small consulting firm. Nothing flashy, but it pays the bills and then some, which is apparently code for Xavier can afford to bail everyone out whenever they screw up. But let me back up and tell you how we got to the point where I'm typing this instead of being at my sister's wedding. Because yeah, that's where we are. She got married last weekend, and I wasn't there. And before you start thinking I'm some bitter asshole who couldn't handle his sister's happiness, let me explain exactly why I was 200 miles away, sitting on my couch, eating takeout Chinese, and watching Netflix instead of watching Chelsea walk down the aisle. It all started 3 months ago when my parents called a family meeting. Now, in a normal family, a family meeting might be about vacation plans or maybe discussing grandma's health. In my family, it means someone screwed up financially and needs the Bank of Xavier to open for emergency withdrawals. I showed up at their house on a Sunday afternoon and immediately knew something was off. Dad was pacing around the living room like a caged animal. Mom was doing that thing where she pretends to clean, but really just moves the same magazine from one table to another, and Chelsea was nowhere to be seen. "Where's the guest of honor?" I asked, settling into the old recliner that's been my chair since high school. Dad stopped pacing. She's looking at venues with Derek. Derek, by the way, is Chelsea's fiancé. Nice enough guy, but he's got about as much financial sense as a golden retriever. They've been engaged for 8 months, and in that time, their wedding budget has somehow ballooned from small ceremony in Mom's backyard to destination wedding with a reception for 200 people. Venues? I raised an eyebrow. I thought they were doing the backyard thing. Mom finally stopped pretending to dust and sat down across from me. She had that look, the one she gets when she's about to ask for money, but wants to make it seem like she's doing you a favor by letting you help. "Well, that's what we wanted to talk to you about," she said, wringing her hands. "Chelsea's been so stressed about the wedding, and Derek's family they're well off, Xavier. They're expecting something nice." I could already see where this was going. Define something nice. Dad cleared his throat. They found this beautiful venue. Historic mansion, gorgeous grounds, room for everyone. The problem is, it's expensive, I finished for him. "Very expensive," Mom admitted. "But Xavier, she's only going to get married once. This is her special day. We can't let her down." Here's the thing about my parents. They're masters of the emotional manipulation game. Everything is always about not letting Chelsea down, not disappointing Chelsea, making sure Chelsea has everything she needs to be happy. Never mind that I put myself through school working nights at a gas station. Never mind that I moved back home for 2 years after college to help with their mortgage when Dad's restaurant was struggling. Never mind that I still send them $500 a month to help with their car payments. "How much are we talking about?" I asked, even though I knew I was walking into a trap. Dad and Mom exchanged one of those looks that married couples perfect over decades of shared bad decisions. 60,000, Dad said quietly. I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "For the whole wedding," Mom rushed to explain. "The venue, the catering, the flowers, her dress, the photographer, everything. Chelsea found this amazing photographer who did her friend's wedding, and the dress she wants is from this boutique that $60,000. I said each word slowly, like I was trying to taste how ridiculous they sounded. "We know it sounds like a lot," Dad said, "but we've been saving—" "Have you?" I interrupted. "Because last month you asked me to cover your electric bill because the restaurant had a slow week." The restaurant. Dad's diner. The investment opportunity that was supposed to make him a successful businessman, and instead became a money pit that I've been secretly funding for the past 3 years. See, my dad has always fancied himself an entrepreneur. When I was in high school, he sank their savings into opening a small diner on the outskirts of town. The food's actually pretty good. Dad's always been a solid cook, but his business sense is about as sharp as a wet napkin. Within 6 months, he was behind on the lease. Within a year, he was staring down the barrel of bankruptcy. That's when he came to me, hat in hand, explaining that he just needed a little help to get over the hump. Just temporary, he'd said. Once we build up our customer base, we'll be fine. That was 3 years ago. The temporary help turned into me covering the $4,200 monthly business loan payment, plus periodic bailouts when equipment broke down or the health inspector required upgrades. All told, I've probably put close to $200,000 into keeping Dad's dream alive. But I never complained. Family helps family, right? And Dad seemed genuinely grateful, even if he never quite managed to pay me back like he kept promising he would. So when they started talking about Chelsea's wedding budget, I already had that familiar sinking feeling in my stomach. We've been saving what we can, Mom continued, and Derek's parents are contributing, but we're still about 40,000 short. And you want me to loan it to you? I said. It wasn't a question. Not exactly, Dad said, and something in his tone made me sit up straighter. What do you mean, not exactly? Mom took a deep breath. Xavier, honey, you know we've always planned to help you kids with college. Past tense. I noticed the past tense immediately. We set aside money for both of you, she continued. Your fund and Chelsea's fund. I knew about the college funds. My parents had been talking about them since we were kids, how they were saving so we could both get good educations, how important it was to invest in our futures. When I decided to go to community college and then transfer to state school, they'd mentioned the fund was there if I needed it. But I'd been too proud to ask for help. I worked my ass off, took out minimal loans, and graduated with just $8,000 in debt that I paid off within 2 years. You never used yours, Dad said. You were so determined to do it on your own. And we're so proud of that, Mom added quickly. You've always been so independent, so capable. Here it comes, I thought. But Chelsea, Mom continued, she needs this, Xavier. She needs to feel special, to have her dream wedding. And the money is just sitting there. The room went very quiet. I could hear the old grandfather clock ticking in the corner, the same clock that had been marking time through every family crisis for the past 20 years. You gave her my college fund, I said. Not a question, a statement. It's not like you needed it, Dad said defensively. You've got your business. You're doing well. You gave her my college fund for her wedding. Xavier, please don't be upset, Mom pleaded. She needs it more than you do right now. You're successful. You're stable. Chelsea's just starting her life. She's 25 years old, I snapped, the first crack in my calm demeanor. When I was 25, I was running my own business and paying off student loans. I didn't have Mommy and Daddy funding my lifestyle choices. This isn't a lifestyle choice, Dad said sharply. This is her wedding day, the most important day of her life. More important than education, apparently. Don't be like that, Mom said. You know we love you both equally. Do you? I stood up, suddenly feeling like I needed some physical distance from this conversation. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you love Chelsea enough to give her a $60,000 wedding, and you love me enough to expect me to pay for it. We're not asking you to pay for it, Dad protested. Really? Because it sounds like you already spent my college fund, and now you're 40 grand short. So who exactly did you think was going to make up the difference? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Mom was crying now, those manipulative tears that had gotten her out of every difficult conversation since I was old enough to remember. Please, Xavier, she whispered. Don't ruin this for her. Don't be the reason Chelsea can't have her dream wedding. And there it was. The same script they'd been running for 28 years. Everything was always my fault. If I didn't help, if I didn't sacrifice, if I didn't quietly absorb whatever unfairness they dished out, I was the bad guy. I was the one ruining things for poor, sweet Chelsea. I looked at my parents, really looked at them. Dad with his defensive posture and entitled expression. Mom with her practiced tears and emotional manipulation. These were the people who'd raised me to believe that my job in the family was to be the strong one, the reliable one, the one who didn't need anything because needing things was inconvenient for everyone else. I need to think about this, I said finally. The wedding's in 3 months, Dad said. We need to know soon so we can... I said I need to think about it. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard Mom sobbing about how I was breaking her heart, how she never thought I could be so selfish, how Chelsea was going to be devastated. But here's what they didn't understand. I wasn't angry. I was done. There's a difference. I drove home to my apartment and sat on my couch, staring at the wall for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and started doing some math. My college fund had been $47,000. I knew because they'd mentioned the amount a few times over the years, usually when they wanted to remind me how much they'd sacrificed to save for my future. Combined with Derek's parents' contribution, and whatever Mom and Dad had managed to scrape together, they probably had just enough for Chelsea's dream wedding, which meant they'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. They didn't call a family meeting to ask my opinion. They called it to inform me of a decision they'd already made and gauge how much resistance they were likely to face. That's when I opened my banking app and looked at the automatic payment that went out to First National Business Lending every month, $4,200, like clockwork, for the past 3 years. Dad's restaurant loan. I stared at that payment for a long time. Here's the thing about being the responsible one. Everyone assumes you'll keep being responsible even when they stop being responsible to you. They assume your loyalty is unconditional, that your support is guaranteed, that your feelings don't really matter as long as you keep writing checks. I clicked into the payment settings and hovered my cursor over the Cancel Recurring Payment button. My phone buzzed. A text from Chelsea. OMG, Xavier, I can't wait to show you the venue. It's going to be amazing. Thank you for being such an incredible big brother. I clicked the button. The confirmation screen asked if I was sure I wanted to cancel the recurring payment. I clicked yes. Then I closed the laptop and went to bed. For the first time in months, I slept like a baby. The next few weeks were blissfully quiet. Chelsea was in full wedding planning mode, calling Mom 3 times a day with updates on flower arrangements and seating charts. Dad was working extra hours at the restaurant, probably trying to scrape together a few more dollars for last-minute expenses. Mom was stress cleaning the house and sending me periodic updates via text about how excited she was for the big day. I went to work, came home, watched TV, and enjoyed the strange novelty of not worrying about anyone else's problems. Then, about 6 weeks before the wedding, Dad called me. Xavier, he said, and I could hear the panic in his voice. I need to talk to you. Can you come by the restaurant? I'm pretty busy today, I said. Can't we talk on the phone? No, I need you to see something. Please, it's important. There was something in his tone that made me agree. I drove to the diner, a small place wedged between a tire shop and a dry cleaner in a strip mall that had seen better days. The neon sign that said Dad's Diner was missing the apostrophe, and the parking lot had more potholes than pavement. Inside, Dad was sitting at a corner booth with a stack of papers spread out in front of him. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in the past month. What's going on? I asked, sliding into the booth across from him. He pushed a letter across the table. It was from First National Business Lending, and the words Notice of Default were printed in bold red letters across the top. I read the letter carefully, even though I already knew what it said. They were demanding immediate payment of the overdue amount, plus penalties and fees. If payment wasn't received within 30 days, they would begin foreclosure proceedings on the restaurant. I don't understand, Dad said, his voice shaking. The payment's been automatic for 3 years. It's never been late, but they're saying we're 2 months behind. Huh, I said, setting the letter down. That's weird. Xavier, if I lose this place... He gestured around the diner, at the red vinyl booths and the black and white checkered floor. This is everything I've worked for. This is my legacy. Have you called the bank? I asked. Of course I called the bank. They said the automatic payment was canceled 2 months ago, but I never canceled it. I don't even know how to cancel it. You set the whole thing up for me. I nodded thoughtfully. That is strange. Can you call them? You know how to talk to these people. Maybe there was some kind of mistake, some computer glitch or something. Sure, I said. I'll look into it. Dad's relief was palpable. Thank you, son. I knew I could count on you. You've always been there for the family. Always been there for the family. Right up until the family decided I didn't matter as much as a party. I left the restaurant and drove home, where I spent the evening researching bankruptcy law and business closure procedures. Not for any particular reason, of course. Just curiosity. The next few days brought a flurry of increasingly frantic calls from Dad. He'd gotten a second notice from the bank, this one even more threatening. He'd spoken to a lawyer who told him his options were basically pay up or lose everything. Did you talk to the bank? He asked during one of our conversations. I called them, I said, which was true. I had called them to confirm that the automatic payment had been successfully canceled. What did they say? They said the account holder would need to call to reinstate the payment. Something about security protocols. I called them. They said they need verification from whoever set up the original payment. That's weird, I said. Must be some new policy. Meanwhile, wedding preparations were reaching a fever pitch. Chelsea had apparently decided that 3 months wasn't enough time to plan the perfect wedding, so she was spending every waking moment obsessing over details. The florist needed a final head count. The caterer needed to know about dietary restrictions. The photographer wanted to schedule an engagement shoot, and Mom was running herself ragged trying to manage it all while also worrying about Dad's business difficulties. She called me one evening, her voice strained and exhausted. Xavier, honey, I hate to ask, but could you maybe help your father with this bank thing? He's so stressed he can barely eat. I'm sure it'll work itself out, I said. These things usually do. But what if it doesn't? What if he loses the restaurant right before Chelsea's wedding? She's already so stressed about everything being perfect. I'm sure Chelsea will understand if there are some minor hiccups. Minor hiccups? Mom's voice rose to a pitch that probably frightened dogs in the next county. Xavier, your father's life work is on the line here. This isn't some minor inconvenience. You're right, I said. It's not minor at all. In fact, it's the kind of major financial crisis that might require, say, $47,000 to resolve. Silence. What's that supposed to mean? Mom asked. But her voice had gone very quiet. Just thinking out loud, I said. Funny how money works, isn't it? Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you save it for one thing, sometimes you spend it on something else entirely. Xavier, I should go, Mom. I've got an early meeting tomorrow. The wedding was now 3 weeks away, and the pressure was mounting from all sides. Dad had gotten a final notice from the bank. Pay up in 10 days or face immediate foreclosure. Chelsea was having daily meltdowns about some aspect of the wedding planning. Mom was popping antacids like Tic Tacs. And then Chelsea called me directly. Xavier, she said, and I could tell she'd been crying. I need to talk to you. What's wrong? It's Dad. He's being so weird lately. He keeps talking about canceling the wedding, saying we can't afford it, saying maybe we should just do something simple in the backyard after all. Maybe that's not such a bad idea, I said. Backyard weddings can be really nice. Are you insane? She shrieked. I've already sent out the invitations. Derek's family is flying in from Boston. The deposits are paid. Well, most of the deposits anyway. Xavier, you have to talk to him. He listens to you. Tell him everything's going to be fine. Tell him not to worry about money. Why would I tell him that? Because you always fix things. You always make the problems go away. That's what you do. That's what I do. Not, thank you for all the years you've helped us. Not, I appreciate how you've supported the family. Just, that's what you do. Like I'm some kind of appliance that exists solely for their convenience. Maybe this time Dad needs to figure it out himself, I said. Chelsea was quiet for a long moment. You're not going to help, are you? Help with what? Don't play dumb, Xavier. I know Mom and Dad asked you about the wedding money. I know they told you about using your college fund. Ah, I said. So you knew. Of course I knew. It was my idea. That stopped me cold. Your idea? Mom and Dad were freaking out about money. And I remembered that you never used your college fund. So I suggested they use it for the wedding. I mean, you don't need it, right? You're already successful. You've got your business. You're making good money. It's not like you're going to go back to school. The casual entitlement of it took my breath away. Not only had they stolen my college fund, but it had been Chelsea's idea. She'd literally suggested that they take the money my parents had saved for my education and spend it on her party. So you think that was fair? I asked. Fair? She sounded genuinely confused. Xavier, it's my wedding. It's the most important day of my life. Of course it's fair to use whatever resources we have to make it perfect. Even if those resources were meant for someone else, they were meant for us, for the family. And the family needs this wedding to happen. The family. As if I wasn't part of the family. As if my needs, my feelings, my financial sacrifice over the years didn't matter. Here's the thing, Chelsea, I said. You're right. I don't need that college fund. I put myself through school. I built my own business. I made my own way. But you know what I did need? I needed my family to respect me enough not to steal from me. I needed my parents to value me enough to ask before they gave away money that was supposed to be mine. I needed my sister to care enough about me to think maybe, just maybe, I might have feelings about having my future sold off to pay for her party. It's not stealing, she protested. It's family money. No, Chelsea, it was my money. Money that was saved specifically for my education, just like you had money saved for yours. The only difference is, I was too proud to use mine, and you were too entitled to stick to your budget. You're being ridiculous, she said, but there was a tremor in her voice now. This is about more than money. This is about family. This is about supporting each other. You mean this is about me supporting you, like I've been supporting Dad's restaurant for the past 3 years. Another silence. What do you mean? She asked carefully. I mean, I've been paying his business loan for 3 years, Chelsea. $4,200 a month, every month, because Dad asked for help and I gave it. Just like I've been helping with their car payments and their electric bills and every other financial crisis that's come up. Because that's what family does, right? We support each other. So why won't you support my wedding? Because you took my college fund without asking me. Because you act like my money is your money, but your problems are never my problems. Because you think being family means you're entitled to whatever I have. But I'm not entitled to basic respect. Chelsea started crying then. Big, dramatic sobs that I'm sure would have moved me if I hadn't spent the last 28 years watching her manipulate people with tears. Please, Xavier, she begged. I'm sorry about the college fund. I didn't realize you'd be upset. But the wedding is in 3 weeks. Everything's planned. Everyone's counting on this. Then you better hope Dad figures out his restaurant situation, I said. What does that have to do with anything? Nothing, probably. I'm sure it'll all work out. But of course, it didn't work out. The bank foreclosed on Dad's diner exactly 1 week before Chelsea's wedding. Dad called me sobbing, begging me to help him come up with the money to pay off the loan and save the restaurant. I'll sign over half the business to you, he promised. Hell, I'll sign over the whole thing. Just please, Xavier, don't let me lose everything. I'm sorry, Dad, I said. I just don't have that kind of money lying around. Which was a lie. I had plenty of money. I had the money I'd saved by not paying his business loan for the past 3 months. I had the money I'd been setting aside for years. The money I'd planned to use to expand my own business, or maybe buy a house. But I also had something more valuable. The knowledge that I didn't owe them anything. Not my money, not my future, not my self-respect. The restaurant closed on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, the local newspaper had run a story about the closure, mentioning that financial difficulties had forced the owner to shut down after nearly 4 years in business. By Thursday, word had spread through our small town that the family restaurant had gone under just days before the owner's daughter's expensive wedding. By Friday, Chelsea was getting calls from vendors asking if the wedding was still happening, if the checks were still good, if they should proceed with deliveries and setup. And by Saturday, 1 week before the wedding, my parents called another family meeting. This time, Chelsea was there. She was sitting on the couch next to Mom, both of them looking like they'd been crying for days. Dad was in his recliner, staring at the floor. We need to talk, Mom said as soon as I walked in. I figured, the restaurant's gone. Dad said without looking up. 23 years of marriage, and I put everything we had into that place. And now it's gone. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. And I was. Despite everything, I didn't want to see my father broken. The wedding vendors are demanding payment, Chelsea said, her voice barely above a whisper. The final payments were supposed to come from the restaurant's cash flow. Of course they were. Because why would they have planned for the possibility that the restaurant might not generate enough cash to fund a $60,000 wedding? We need help, Mom said simply. We need you to loan us the money to pay the vendors. How much? I asked. $35,000, Dad said. To cover the remaining vendor payments and avoid canceling everything. I sat down across from them, these 3 people who had shaped my entire life and who were now looking at me like I was their last hope. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, I said. You took my college fund to pay for Chelsea's wedding. Dad's restaurant, the one I've been secretly subsidizing for 3 years, went under because he couldn't make his loan payments. And now you want me to loan you another $35,000 to salvage the wedding that you already paid for with money that was supposed to be mine. When you put it like that, it sounds... Mom started. Accurate, I finished. It sounds accurate. Xavier, please, Chelsea said. I know we messed up. I know we should have asked about the college fund. But the wedding is in 7 days. 7 days. We can't cancel now. Why not? All 3 of them stared at me like I'd suggested they sacrifice a goat. What do you mean, why not? Dad asked. I mean, why can't you cancel? You could have a simple ceremony at the local church. Derek's family could still come. You could have a reception in your backyard. It would cost maybe a tenth of what you're spending now. But all the deposits, Chelsea whimpered, are gone, I said. Whether you have the wedding or not, you've already lost that money. The question is whether you're going to lose $35,000 more. It's her dream wedding, Mom said desperately. It's what she's wanted since she was a little girl. When she was a little girl, she wanted to be a princess too. That doesn't mean you should have bought her a kingdom. Dad finally looked up at me. Son, I know I've made mistakes. The restaurant, the loan, not planning better for the wedding. But I'm asking you as your father to help us out of this hole. As my father, I repeated. The same father who gave away my college fund without telling me. The same father who's been letting me pay his business loan for 3 years without ever once saying thank you or paying me back. The same father who called a family meeting to inform me that my sister deserved my money more than I did. We said we were sorry about that, Mom protested. No, you said I was being unreasonable. There's a difference. I stood up, feeling suddenly very tired of this whole conversation. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Chelsea, you're going to call Derek and your in-laws and explain the situation. You're going to ask if they'd be okay with a simple ceremony and reception instead of the elaborate wedding you planned. If they say yes, then you'll have a lovely, intimate celebration that focuses on your marriage instead of impressing people with how much money you can spend. If they say no, then maybe you need to reconsider whether you're marrying the right family. And if I don't want a simple wedding, Chelsea asked, then you'll need to find another way to pay for it. Maybe Derek's family can cover the remaining costs. Maybe you can take out a loan. Maybe you can get jobs and save up for a few years before having the wedding. But I won't be paying for it. You're destroying her life, Mom said, the tears starting again. No, I'm declining to fix the mess you all created. There's a difference. I headed for the door, but Dad's voice stopped me. Xavier, wait. I turned back. Hey, if you walk out that door, if you don't help us with this, I don't think our relationship will ever recover. It was meant to be a threat, but it sounded more like a plea. Dad, I said gently, our relationship was damaged the moment you decided to take my college fund without asking me. It was damaged when you let me pay your business loan for 3 years without acknowledging what I was sacrificing. It was damaged when you called a family meeting to tell me that my sister's wants were more important than my feelings. But we're family, he said. Yes, we are. And family should treat each other with respect, consideration, and honesty. When you're ready to do that, you know where to find me. I left them sitting in their living room, surrounded by the wreckage of their poor decisions and their inflated expectations. Chelsea's wedding was scheduled for the following Saturday. On Friday, I got a call from Derek. Xavier, he said, I hope you don't mind me calling. Chelsea gave me your number. What can I do for you? I wanted to thank you. That wasn't what I'd expected him to say. Thank me for what? For forcing us to face reality. Chelsea told me about the financial situation, about the restaurant, about the college fund, and I realized that I didn't want to start my marriage by putting my new in-laws into debt for the rest of their lives. So what are you going to do? We're having the wedding, but not the one Chelsea originally planned. My parents are covering the vendor costs that are already committed. The venue, the photographer, the flowers, but we're scaling everything way back. Simple ceremony, cocktail reception instead of a sit-down dinner, local DJ instead of a band. It's going to cost about 1/10 of what the original plan was. And Chelsea's okay with that? Derek laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Chelsea's not okay with any of this. She's been crying for 3 days straight. She keeps saying that I'm ruining her dream wedding, that she'll never forgive any of us for making her settle for less. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be. If this is how she reacts when things don't go exactly her way, then I need to know that before we get married, not after. The wedding happened. I wasn't there, but I heard about it from my Aunt Linda, who called me the following Monday. It was actually quite lovely, she told me. Small, intimate, focused on the actual ceremony instead of all the pomp and circumstance. Derek's family seemed very nice. And Chelsea? Chelsea spent the entire reception complaining about everything that wasn't the way she'd originally planned it. The flowers were wrong. The music was wrong. The food was wrong. Derek looked embarrassed, and your parents looked exhausted. How are Mom and Dad doing? Not well. Your father's been applying for jobs, but he's 62 years old and has been self-employed for 23 years. It's not easy. Your mother's talking about going back to work at the department store. I felt a pang of sympathy for them, but I pushed it down. They'd made their choices. And Chelsea? She's not speaking to anyone. Apparently she and Derek had a big fight on their honeymoon. Something about him not standing up for her dream wedding. I think she expected him to demand that his parents pay for the original plan. It was almost exactly what I'd expected would happen. 3 weeks after the wedding, I got a call from Mom. Xavier, she said, and her voice was small and defeated. I need to ask you something. Okay. Do you hate us? I thought about it for a moment. Did I hate them? I was angry, disappointed, hurt, but hate? No, I don't think I hated them. No, Mom, I don't hate you. Then why won't you help us? Why won't you forgive us? Because you haven't actually apologized. You've said you're sorry I'm upset, but you haven't acknowledged that what you did was wrong. You still think I'm being unreasonable. But we are sorry. Are you sorry you took my college fund? Or are you sorry I found out about it? Silence. Are you sorry Dad let me pay his business loan for 3 years? Or are you sorry the restaurant failed anyway? More silence. Are you sorry you prioritized Chelsea's wants over my feelings? Or are you sorry there were consequences? I don't know how to answer that, Mom finally said. Then we don't have anything else to talk about. 6 months later, Dad found a job managing a restaurant for someone else. The pay was less than half what he'd been hoping to make from his own place, but it was steady work with benefits. Mom went back to her old job at Macy's, working part-time in the women's department. Chelsea and Derek were having marriage problems. According to the family gossip network, Chelsea had never quite gotten over her ruined wedding and blamed Derek for not supporting her vision. Derek, meanwhile, had apparently realized that his wife's financial expectations were completely unrealistic and was starting to resent being seen as her personal ATM. I'm not completely cut off from my family. I exchanged Christmas cards with my parents. I sent a wedding gift to Chelsea and Derek, though I didn't attend the wedding. When Dad got his new job, I texted him congratulations. But I don't loan them money anymore. I don't pay their bills. I don't solve their problems. And you know what? They've managed to figure things out on their own, just like I always knew they could. The other day, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Chelsea, handwritten on expensive stationery. Dear Xavier, it began, Derek and I are getting divorced. I know we haven't spoken much since the wedding, but I wanted you to know before you heard it from someone else. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about family, about priorities, about what really matters. I think maybe I've been wrong about some things. I'd like to talk to you sometime, if you're willing. Love, Chelsea. I read the letter twice, then set it aside. Maybe someday we'll have that conversation. Maybe someday my family will understand that love isn't about what you're willing to take from someone, but what you're willing to give up for them. But that someday isn't today. Today, I'm sitting in my own house, drinking coffee I bought with my own money, planning a future that nobody can take away from me. And for the first time in my adult life, that feels like enough.